All right, welcome to Spirit Family and our podcast on pretty privilege and how it affects our community. This is very important. So I know there's a lot of talks about pretty privilege, but I feel like in this one we're gonna go in depth on how it affects our community and also how we interact with each other. And I feel like that hasn't been talked about because a lot of times we just mention the fact that yeah, pretty privilege is a thing, there's advantages about it, but here's the thing is that it does affect our community, it affects us the way that our children look at things and the pressures that they feel towards our community as well as an environment. So let's talk about it today. So first good. One is, let's talk about what pretty privilege is, all right? So pretty privilege, I'm gonna look at the definition right now, is a person who has more opportunities and becomes more successful in life because of how attractive they are. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's like shake what your mama gave you, right? So if you're born with something, either it be money, talent, looks, then, it's almost like it's your right to use that to your advantage and to get further in life. So if I was born good looking, I'm not going to say, oh no, I would use it, right? Because say it opens doors for me. I go places, people give me extra attention. Maybe I apply for jobs and I get the head of the line. I'm not gonna say, oh no, just it's okay, just let the others go first. No, of course. I mean, that's something you were born with. You have an advantage over somebody. Take advantage of it. So just like if you were taller than somebody and you could play sports or anything that you're gifted, it'd be a waste if you just let it go. Don't use it. So
I think, to be honest, I understand what you're saying, and I think the problem that we have is that lack of empathy. It includes a lot of times, and we'll go into that more during the chat, but I feel like the main problem is that a lot of times it's hard to find someone who is beautiful, and they are there, obviously, right? But the problem is it's hard to find someone beautiful and humble at the same time. I mean, I like confidence, but I don't like cockiness.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, to have someone not only think that they're beautiful, which is fine, but think that they're beautiful, but more beautiful than everyone else, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of them are enabled. So it's probably since they're young, they're coddled. Like they've been told they're the most beautiful girl or guy in the school.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, they don't even need to think they're beautiful. Everyone tells them they are.
Yeah.
So obviously, the hot jock, that's the quarterback of the football team, all the girls want him, and the hot girl, the cheerleader, all the guys want her. So it's since they're young, they're conditioned that way. And like you said, though, see, if they remain cocky, they know the whole world is given to them, and they don't really work for anything. That's a different story. But if they're appreciative of the fact that they were born with this gift, and they use it for,
they acknowledge it.
Yeah, they acknowledge it, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that I feel like, again, there are people that are beautiful people that are beautiful on the inside out. I've seen those people before, but I'm not going to lie. Like you said before, our community, our society, it basically makes it so that prettier people believe that they are better than everyone else. And a lot of times we enforce that, right? We're like, oh, you're so beautiful. You must automatically be someone who's better than everyone else. Even like with Asian kids, I feel like in a lot of cultures, right, but especially with Asian kids, if you are a very beautiful, talented child, your parents will put you on like this hierarchy, right? And just naturally, this is my kid, they're so handsome, they're so beautiful, they're so much better than every other kid, I'm so grateful. And they'll teach you that too as well. Like I've known so many Asian kids growing up, like, you are the best, no one is like you. That's definitely a very stereotypical but also typical thing in a lot of Asian households if you have a beautiful, talented kid.
Well, do you think that's just based on looks, or it could be maybe they're smarter than everyone else? Or
I think intelligence plays a part of it, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that also if you're beautiful, that also plays a part. I think, again, with a lot of cultures, but especially in the Asian culture, if you're beautiful and you're smart, oh my gosh, your parents are going to highlight you with everything. And they will tell you, they will tell you, you are the most beautiful person in the world. Like, I've seen that so many times.
Yes, but is it that beautiful person's fault, or can they be blamed? But it's not them who exudes this, hey, I'm the most beautiful person in the room. It's if other people are kissing up to them and telling them that, then it's not really their fault that they get all this attention.
Well, I think accountability is really important. Yeah. So I think that regardless, if you have someone who is a really cocky, non-humbled person, yes, like there's a lot of people feeding you the information. There's a lot of people advocating for you to be that person, right? Like it's not just a pretty person, it's also how we interact with them. Like we're still giving them follows, we're still giving them likes, we're still commenting them on how much better they are from other people, right? So we are part of it, not us. Well, definitely not me, because I'll tell someone if they're just beautiful on the outside but not beautiful on the inside, I'll tell them like, you are a horrible person. But I think that a lot of times we don't realize that the role that we play in this as well. But I do think they have to be accountable for something. So if someone says, I am better looking than everyone else, you have to take some accountability to that. You have to know that you are being an ass. Sorry.
Well, it depends on what they're using it for, right? So if they say they're more
I
beautiful...
think anytime you say you're more beautiful than everyone else, I think you're kind of being an ass.
Well, it depends on, say, if it's like in a beauty contest or something, right? Or say something that involves looks, like some type of dance class.
You
or
can
something.
still be humble in those situations, right? Like I watch Miss Universe all the time, and when they do the speech, when they do the questions, they can still answer them. Like, can you imagine if Miss Universe came on and they're like, so how do you feel about today's society? As the most beautiful person in the world, more beautiful than anyone else, you think people would really like that?
That sounds like Zoolander.
Yeah, but again, like it's a stereotype, but it's true for a lot of them. Not all of them, right? But a lot of them. So if you had that scenario where you really thought that way and you were verbally putting it out there, people would like that. Yeah. But it happens all the time, So, and also I just feel like, being older, I definitely feel like our generations are different. Not saying one is better than the other. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that, like, when I was growing up, to be attractive, you had to be attractive at school and compare yourself to people on TV and magazines, right? Nowadays, you have to compare yourself to, like, at least 20 or 30 more things. You have to be beautiful for Snapchat. You have to be beautiful for Instagram, for Facebook, for TikTok, for so many outlets, especially social media outlets, right?
And there's so many filters too to make you artificially, like there's all these memes now that people, they show themselves with the filter and without, and now they're doing it kind of the opposite, reverse psychology, where they look pretty much the same with the filter. They're so hot already, so these girls are like so thirsty for attention that they're already hot, and they show themselves with the filter and then without the filter, and they make themselves look like they're disappointed. But when people are watching it, they're like, you look exactly the same. And then those girls read that in the comment, and it feeds their ego.
Well, it's not just even about, like, being as beautiful as these influencers. It's about saying, these are not just standards of beauty by influencers. These are impossible standards, because not even the influencers can meet up to these standards. Yeah. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? Both male and female. I've seen a lot of male influencers as well that just do so much photoshopping. And they're constantly talking about how much better they are from other people. Like, it's crazy out there.
Yeah. That's a main issue here is a lot of them Photoshop, the airbrush. But I guess that's not really different from, like, back in the day, like the swimsuit magazines. They always airbrush too. So
yes, but I'm sorry, I cannot lie. I cannot lie. It's way more extreme now. Like, I would never deny the aspect. Like, I do realize, again, we all have our faults in every generation, right? But to be honest, technology
it's easier.
Technology is way surpassed from when we were kids, right? Let's just be real about that. So the airbrushing is more advanced because they have a more advanced generation. Yeah. So of course there's to be more, right? So yes, we had it, no doubt about that. Totally understand. But it's not as extreme as it is now. And again, not saying that whichever generation is better than the other. I'm just saying that this is the reality scenario.
Yeah. I guess it's. What I'm getting at is that it's always existed. It's not something new. It's just a different form now.
It's not just different. It's way worse. I'm sorry. Let's just not lie to people. You guys, it's way worse. If I had to grow up in this generation and look good for all these platforms as a kid, as a fucking 12-year-old kid, trying to look good for Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, all these things, and then also like the thirst trap that a lot of people advocate as a 12-year-old. No, like there's nothing empowering about being a 12-year-old or 13-year-old thirst trap. I'm sorry, like, I would not want my kid to do that. I wouldn't want to do that if I were 12 years old. Yeah. And I think if you're of legal age, that's one thing. But if you're like just a child, no, that's not empowering. I feel like we have a lot of this presumption that it's empowering to be nude when you're young. Even
Yeah.
Netflix had that, right? Netflix had a whole entire drama, and I love Netflix. Again, like, don't come after me, Netflix. But they had, like, I forgot what it's called. Like, it's this one show. I'll post it up as soon as I'll send it to you as well. But it's like these like dancers that are like babies, like they're baby dancers, and they're not babies, but they're like 12 or like 9 years old, and they're dancing properly. They're wearing skimpy outfits, and that had some backlash, but that's the reality of like a lot of social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah.
You have kids that are wearing skimpy outfits, dancing very seductively, and we call it empowering when it shouldn't be like that. I'm sorry, a kid should be a kid. They shouldn't have to feel the pressure of looking perfect.
Yeah.
For all of us,
Well, it depends. See, I know a lot of people say they dress up nice or put makeup on, whatever, for themselves. It makes them feel good. So that's
I mean, no, we're talking about thong. I'm not talking about wearing makeup. I'm sorry, I'm talking about a 12-year-old in a thong. No, there's no excuse for that. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, because if they're over sexualizing it at that young of an age, they shouldn't even be thinking about sex at all. So is it them doing it though, or the parents, or the teachers?
It's the pressures. No, it's not the teacher. Come on. No.
Well, if it's a dance class,
it's not the teachers.
It has to be.
Well, maybe the dance instructor, but like still, that, like, again, like teachers trying to advocate against this.
Yeah.
But, as I said, if you're a legal age or whatever, that's fine. But like, if you are a 12-year-old kid, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Whether you're a liberal, conservative, we have to realize like that's wrong to over sexualize a child.
Yeah. And then why did they think that's beautiful anyway? Like it's just kind of trashy, right? It's not. It shouldn't be
because we live in a society
beauty
that focuses on over sexualizing people in general, kids or adults.
Yeah.
And again, when you get to that age, sexual empowerment, that's fine. But when you're 12, again, also scientifically, you don't have the brain patterns or just like the brain width to understand what you're doing completely.
Yeah.
So when you're a child, and you're being taken advantage of, that's messed up. I'm sorry, like that's super messed up.
Yeah.
Anyone, but especially children.
So they're kind of being exploited then, you think, or it's not?
Hell fucking yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry, I get too passionate about this. Not to my friend Eric. I love Eric, but just general people are crazy. And they advocate for this all the time. Like there's so many people on TikTok that advocate like, oh yeah, no, she should wear like a wet t-shirt. I'm like, she's
no
13. Like, what is your problem?
Do people actually say stuff like that? Like,
You see the comments on TikTok? People are crazy. Like, I watch TikToks a lot of times, like, to create more videos, as you know. But at the same time, I'm like, I watch videos, and I'm like, this is intense. All right, you guys, so let's talk about the next one on Pretty Privileged, because the next one is the halo effect. So, like, the halo effect's really interesting. I'll read you the title about this right now. So, halo effect is a well-documented social psychology phenomenon that causes people to be biased in their judgments by transferring their feelings about one attribute of someone or something to other unrelated attributes, right? So, for example, it's one of the excuses for attractive people that we instantly think that they are more trustworthy, they're more honest, that they're more caring, that they're good people, Again, they could be a serial killer, they could be... Boom! Yes, no.
Like a
yes.
Ronnie Alcala.
There has been serial killers that have been really attractive that we've basically tried to get them out of jail because of how attractive they are. Like this sounds ridiculous, like guys.
Scott Peterson.
Yeah, this sounds ridiculous. Yeah. Well, this is real. Like there has been terrorists, like actual terrorists that shoot children, that we're like, okay, they're so attractive that people on Twitter and social media are like...
girls always message them, like pen pal them, and they want to marry them.
Not just that, they advocate. They like do polls. Like, hey, let's get this guy out of jail. He's too good looking to be in jail. I'm like, he killed children.
Yeah. Don't want him to get molested in jail or
He's
something.
A murderer. He's a rapist. We just... Pretty privilege. Again, the halo effect. Just because someone's pretty, we assume that they're great or they're good people, which is not true. And we do this all the fucking time. It's so crazy.
But don't you think there's the opposite effect too? Like if you see like not me personally, but sometimes people see a hot girl on the street. Oh, that dumb bimbo, just because she's hot and has big boobs. So it works the other way too. Like people don't automatically assume that a good-looking person is trustworthy or smart. Sometimes it's the opposite, as a matter of fact. Right? They think, oh, she must be all looks and no brains. Or, I definitely think there are some disadvantages to pretty privilege, but I think that
The problem is, I'm not gonna lie about this. A lot of times, you're right. There are disadvantages to pretty privilege, but at the same time, they'll use most of the benefits they can to excel and put other people down. Not all of them, but some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they don't want to acknowledge their pretty privilege is the main issue. A lot of times they'll talk down to people and be like, I'm pretty, so I'm allowed to do that. I see that so many times, especially on social media. I think we're programmed to think of this as kids as well, because I talk about the Disney effect, and I love Disney. Like, I love Disney to death, But let's be real. Like, when we watched movies when we were young, it was always the beautiful princess is amazing caring. And if it was like the evil person, like the witch or the villain, he or she was always extremely ugly.
Yeah,
like Ursula from
Ursula
from was Quasimodo? I didn't watch that
He's
one.
the hunchback.
But he's not. But he was the good one. That was the only. Listen.
Okay.
That's the only one where I was like, they did right.
Yeah.
But again, like he had to be like, I don't know. Like I feel like he had to be super intense looking for him to be like, okay, well he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But like that's one out of
example.
like the hundreds of movies.
Yeah.
No, it's not a bad example, but it's like he had to be one of like the many people. Right, so one of the many movies, where you give example of someone who's unattractive but had a good heart and good soul, right? Which I think is a beautiful.
So they went overboard to make him really ugly, and it shows, like, don't judge a book by its cover, kind of. That.
They didn't go overboard about it, but at the same time, like I said before, a majority of movies, not just Disney movies, but like all kinds of movies, if someone's ugly, they're instantly a horrible person, a villain. They're not good people.
Well, like in 300, remember that guy, also a hunchback, the guy who betrayed them?
Yeah.
He went to work for the Persians and totally betrayed the Spartans.
Yeah.
So they purposely made him like super ugly, like missing teeth, the eyes all crooked.
Yeah.
So.
No, we always try to villainize less attractive people because we assume that, again, with the halo effect, that if you're attractive, you're a good person. And again, we've seen so many stances where that's not true, right?
Yeah.
Especially with today's culture where we have so many influencers. And I know we talked about this earlier in the last podcast, but like, yes, some of them are really dumb, like, so me and Eric had this argument about like, all these influencers, like, what if they didn't know, like they're just not that smart. And I'm like, yeah, they aren't that smart, right? But they're smart enough to get to this level where they know when they're scamming people. And actually, even majority influencers have admitted that they've scammed people. They've done public apologies, said, hey, sorry who scammed you. But guess what? Like a majority of them, right, they did not actually, when they admit they scammed someone, they never gave the money back. They had the opportunity to. They made millions of dollars scamming their viewers, scamming their fans, right? And even though they made millions of dollars from their fans, knowing that they scammed them, they didn't even give them $1 refund. That's the problem. Not all of them, but a majority of them. And this is what I'm talking about. When we talk about pretty privilege, there are, again, beautiful people who are amazing, kind people, right? But there's beautiful people who are horrendous, horrible people that think they're above other people. So I don't think that we should deny that. I think that we should be upfront about that. And once we recognize it, also, if you're pretty, you realize your privileges and how to be more humble. Because I know from personal experience, when I was growing up, like I think at one point when I was just getting to my height, I was crazy skinny. I was like a chopstick. I was like I was 6'2" and only 140 pounds.
Wow, okay, that is pretty skinny.
Yeah, I was really skinny, like a leaf blowing in the wind skinny.
You're like a slender man.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then my aunt owned a modeling agency at that time, and she was like, "You should model for me,"
Oh wow.
Yeah, and people were just like, "Wow, you're so good looking," and this and that. And the thing is that like people would always tell me like, "Oh man, like you're the best person because like I just feel like you have a good heart." I'm like, "You feel like I have a good heart? You don't even know me." You know what I'm saying? Like they would say things to me. And I'm like, you don't even know a bit about me. You know what I'm saying?
But that didn't make you feel good? Like,
no, it made me feel
they're
great.
Complimenting you, right? They're saying positive.
And I love compliments to this day, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that I love genuine compliments. Like back then, like people would just say things. Like they wouldn't even know me. They wouldn't even know my name. They'd say like, you seem like you have a great heart. And I'm like, I could be a serial killer. You have no idea what's going on. And I would go to places like even then, like I used to go to places, I used to get like free food, free pie, just like people would just like give me anything. They'd be like, oh yeah, here you go, boo boo. And I got so used to it, right? And the challenge was that like everything was like a magnifying glass, because if I gained like 1 or 2 pounds, they would recognize that. That would instantly change their perception of me, right? So like if I gain a pound, which is like nothing, right? But they'd be like, "Oh, wow, you're gaining weight, aren't you?" "Oh, you shouldn't eat that. Oh, you don't want to gain weight because it's gonna make you less attractive." And they would assume that my worth would be less if I gained weight. And I realized how much people were dependent on me being good looking, and how a lot of this like nice interaction was just a way for them to like show that, hey, I only like you for your looks. Because once I did, because I went to college and I was studying, and once I went to college and started studying, I couldn't go to the clubs anymore and like go out and like club all the time, and I was just wearing like college clothes, like just like sweatpants and t-shirts and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh wow, like you're so different now." I'm like, there's nothing different about me. I have the same values. I'm still a person who values kindness, compassion. But because I'm not like in my clubbing clothes, and I'm not like the 140 pounds I was before, you're suddenly feeling I'm a different person. And they would just not just act differently towards me, they would be meaner towards me. And that was a huge thing. Like I started realizing like these people, like they're nice to me just because of the way I look. And that really freaked me out for a while. But I think it's also a situation of like, you don't realize when you're making good friends and you're fake friends when you're attractive. A lot of times you assume every friend's a great friend. And I'm like, that's a fucking lie.
Yeah, I mean, you complain about those issues of, that it's kind of like first world problems, right? Like you're saying, "Oh, poor me, I'm somewhat attractive, people don't like me for who I am." But then you wouldn't want to walk a mile in an unattractive person's shoes, right? So you had these privileges, and even though you felt, people were not genuine, it's still better than what someone who is unattractive went through in their life. Yeah. So, what I mean? So their childhood was equally difficult, if not more. So.
I totally agree. It was definitely first world problems, but I mean, I feel like that if people are always like, "Well, you never talk about the challenges of pretty privilege." I'm like, yeah, there are challenges there. Yeah. But again, I think there's a forced reality, but also the benefit of having a forced reality is that regardless of how much weight I lose, regardless of how I gain or lose my looks or whatever, throughout this process, I've developed I'm gonna be real, I developed a better personality. I was more caring. I was a better listener. Yeah. I was kinder. I was more charismatic, than before. Again, like beforehand, I remember in that state, I was super insecure. Like I'm way less insecure than I was back then. And I was like, again, 140 pounds. I was the guy that everybody wanted not everybody wanted, but like the majority of people wanted, right? And at that time, I was probably the most insecure I've ever been in my whole entire life. Because I was so dependent on people to like me. And mainly just based on my looks, right? Without even knowing it, subconsciously knowing it. Yeah, right? Yeah. And then as I started, like, understanding I can't just be dependent on my looks, I started to develop more of a personality. I started to understand and care for people more. And it made me, I'm not going to lie, it made me a better person. And I know it sounds so horrible, but it's true. Like, it made me a better person because I wasn't solely dependent on my looks anymore.
Yeah, that's good. So you evolved. So say someone like you who relied on looks, not that you relied on it, but had a lot of people compliment you on your looks before, and you got a lot of benefits from it. Say you didn't evolve. Say you just kept using that to your advantage into your 30s and 40s, and once you got to the point...
people do that.
Yeah. So once you got to the point when you're in your 40s, not that you aren't as good looking anymore, but looks deteriorate, right? So people get older, not as attractive as when you were 20, and then you have nothing else to fall back on. That's all you had, like just looks.
Well, that's why people get suicidal. That's why people have so many mental health issues, because we are solely dependent on, again, our looks and social media. Again, they're doing a study on this. Our endorphins actually rise depending on how many follows or how many likes you get on a picture on Instagram. Right? So we base everything on superficiality. And that's what I'm saying, like, every generation has its issues. So Gen X, like, you definitely have your issues as well. Like, this is an issue. You can't deny that. Like, there's a lack of empathy in this situation, right? So not only us, but our kids are going to feel this way, and we have to acknowledge it, recognize it right now. But I think you can, right? I think that you just have to try hard. I'm not going to lie. As a pre-privileged person, a very attractive, generically attractive person, right? You have to learn how to add humbleness in your life, because not just you, but a majority of people around you are going to create this atmosphere where you are the best, right? You're going to feel that way. Your parents are going to feel that way. Your friends are going to make you feel like you are better than everyone else. They're going to advocate for this. Again, we are part of the problem. If we're adding likes to their profile just based on their looks, we're also part of the problem.
Well, there's also the risk of false modesty. Like, you know how if someone is really smart or really good looking and people tell them that and they say, oh, no, I'm not at all. Then, it sounds almost fake to the point where you're denying that you are beautiful, even though everyone knows you are. And that can be annoying, too. So if you are
fishing for compliments, you mean?
Yeah, kind of. But you know how it's...
Oh, I'm not that good looking. Oh, yes, you are. What are you talking about? Of course. I see that all the time on TikTok, by the way. All the time on social media. Good looking people always love fishing for compliments. All the time.
Well, I'll just compare it to like just a smart person in class. Like just say the straight A valedictorian. People always say, "Oh, you're the smartest guy." Oh no, I'm not. I'm just a regular student. I'm not that smart. And so other people look at him like, "Dude, yes you are. Right? Don't give me this BS. Or you're not smarter than us." And
well, again, false modesty compared to real modesty and humbleness. There's definitely a difference there. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But again, you have to work towards being humble. You have to work towards being modest. Like, I'm sorry, even though this happens, try. Don't give up and be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to be superficial for the rest of my life. No, try. Do something where you're learning how to be humble. Again, your personality, your charisma, your caringness, your empathy will improve so much when you don't put yourself on a pedestal above everyone else. Yeah. I'm sorry. This is real.
To quote the great poet Kendrick Lamar, be humble.
Sit down. No, definitely. So, again, we talked about how it influences our society, right? Again, and I feel like there's acceptable bullying. So I want to talk about that too as well, because a lot of times people say, oh yeah, Gen X, we don't bully like, your generation did. I'm like, you guys actually do it worse. Okay? So let me tell you why. Before you scroll down, let me tell you why, okay? So, yes, bullying was a part of our generation. And it was horrible. It should have been done. I totally agree with that. But I'm sorry, your bullying is just as bad, if not worse. A lot of times I feel, and a lot of people feel like it's worse. You know why? Because what you do now is you have not just the popular kids in school. You have actual influencers, right? People who are on social media who have like millions and thousands of fans that you make them turn against someone because you don't like the way they look, the way they act, or you scam them. This is what you guys do. I had been a product actually of bullying on social media, especially TikTok, actually before. And it's been really interesting. So I was starting this podcast, and because we were talking about it together, right? And right when we started, was right when I got bullied,
Wow.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So, the whole entire time, I think, and I want you guys to hear this out before you make your comments, but definitely make comments on this, Kate. So the whole entire time he was talking about how gay men, because I'm a gay man, right? And this applies for like hetero and gay as well, but how gay men can't handle rejection. And I was like, that's interesting. But then I was like, well, I think that rejection is hard to handle for anyone, either gay or straight, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? No one likes rejection, so we're going to handle it poorly sometimes, right?
Yeah, no one likes rejection.
Exactly.
No matter what.
But here's the thing. I feel like gay rejection is, way more intense and straight. They're both bad, but gay rejection is, the craziest. We'll say things like, oh, you know what? I don't really go for, cheeky-eyed guys like you.
What?
And I'm like, dude, I'm also Asian. I was like...
What, an Asian guy would say something like that to another...
Asian guys will say that to another Asian guy. Asian guys will say that to... white guys will say that to Asian guys. Not all whites, because we have white allies and things like that. But, gay men say things like that. They say... we call it sassy. Oh, we're just being sassy. I'm like, no, you're being cruel. That's not... I think sassy is fun. Sometimes I'm sassy, but I think that there's a difference between sassy and being cruel.
Well, that's just an excuse to act like that.
Yeah. And on our profiles, there'll be no blacks, no Asians, no this. And it gets really bad. And our rejection towards each other is really extreme.
Wow.
So, yes, I take it personally because we are really cruel with rejection in the gay community, And also people to be like, they'll say things like this. If you hit on me, you're not gay, but saying if you hit on me, right? and you said, "Oh, hey, you look really good. Let's go out sometime."
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Do you think that I would ever go out with a guy that looks like you? Are you serious? Oh my gosh, you should cut yourself and die." And
That's like Mean Girls.
Yeah, it's really Mean Girl like, and I just told him, I was like, this is messed up because yes, rejection, we have to handle it better as a society, right? But the way that most gay men do it is so severe that yes, it is hard to handle. So what he said is like, I don't want anyone hitting on me and then like calling me out just because you look like some kind of Macaulay Culkin ugly looking ass.
Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah, first of all, Macaulay Culkin's not ugly, okay? But he was saying it as an insult.
McAllister.
Yeah, like he was saying it as an insult. And he was basically putting them down like, oh yeah, if I reject you and you're Macaulay Culkin looking ass, you fucking have to take it. Da-da-da-da. And I was like, the way that you reject people is very mean and cruel. Like you could just be like, hey,
Macaulay Culkin bagged Christina Ricci, so
I know. I'm like, dude, and you can never bag anyone. That's good.
Yeah.
But like he's basically saying that yes, you should be able to handle rejection, which I agree. We should all handle rejection, right? It's part of humankind. Like we're not always gonna be accepted, right? But at the same time, you don't need to be messed up, So the way he said it, and again, we could just be like, hey, I'm sorry, you seem like a great person, but I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have to be like, you fucking ugly ass, da-da-da-da-da. Like, I don't need to be doing that, right? Who needs to be doing that? So this guy, I could say his name. I won't. I'm a little petty, but like, the reason why I'm not gonna say it is because like he got all his followers against me. So this is what I'm talking about. Like within the Gen X generation, we have acceptable bullying, right? Again, you're not bullying people in school as much as we did in our generation, but you're sending your thousands or millions of fans to basically help you bully someone, which to me and to a lot of people, especially stats, is probably way worse than if someone bullied someone at school. Like, I don't know why you guys think it's acceptable to bully someone online and get away with it just because the bully is pretty. I've seen so many pretty bullies. Like, again, like so many influencers. Like, I mean, this could get me in a lot of trouble. Tana Mogo, I'm not the biggest fan of her. She's done so many scams on people, and she's actually bullied people a lot. And she's a really popular influencer. But she's a pretty Caucasian woman that gets away with a lot. And we let her get away with it because she's beautiful. And we have to realize that we have so many people who scam people and they're pretty and they get away with it and we don't call them out, and not only do they bully us, but their fans or stans will bully them and feel like it's completely acceptable to bully someone.
Yeah, so it's not only them, but it's their lemmings who follow them.
Exactly. Like, it's very cult-like too as well.
Yeah, so what, not that they are as at fault as the person, the main person, but they also like, why do they blindly follow this person? They don't know them. They don't. That person probably doesn't even know who they are or even care. Yeah. Right. So they just blindly follow them, like as you call them, stans. Yeah. And what do they get out of it? Nothing.
Well, I mean, that's not my term. That's a term that's used on social media.
Well, yeah, from Eminem. Yeah,
I'm just trying to learn. Learn what the young people are doing nowadays.
Well, even that term is kind of old. That's from like 20 years ago.
Oh
right?
yeah, right.
Yeah, Eminem was like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe they have new terms these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah. So why do they? I mean, you can follow us. We're cool. Yeah, but these other influencers, if they're.
Well, I mean, we're not scamming you guys.
Yeah. Okay, that's
so
true.
Let's
yeah,
be real about that one.
Yeah. That's
so
true. That's.
I mean, he's just scamming you. Like they're scamming you, and the thing is that like not only they're scamming you. They actually scam you out of money. And again, like, especially the crypto scams. Now, not all crypto is bad. Let's be real about that. But they're doing a lot of crypto scams right now, right?
Yeah.
And they've been known for this. And as soon as they do a crypto scam, what's the first thing they do? They do an apology video like, oh, I'm so sorry that I scammed you out of hundreds and thousands of dollars. And I'm like, okay, well...
They were in on it the entire time, probably.
You were in on it, right? And we had an argument about like, oh, well, what if they're stupid? I'm like, yes, they're stupid. But they still know they're scamming people, right? And then they make the apology video so that they admit that they've been scamming you, right?
Yeah.
But not only did they make the apology video, they admit they've literally taken hundreds of thousands of dollars out of you. And at the same time, they made millions off of you. And they don't even refund you $1. So just think about that, right? Like you have someone who scams you and then they admit they scam you and they won't even refund even $1 to you.
Well, just to play a devil's advocate here, like you have to prove that they actually knew it was a scam from the start. Like, I'm sure a lot of these cryptos, like it is kind of buyer beware for all crypto, regardless of who promotes it. It's like if they knew from the start it was going to be a rug pull and they're going to scam, then yes, they are culpable. But maybe they got involved in something that they thought was legit, and that company just used this person as a spokesperson, just like a figurehead, and they kind of got scammed too. So maybe they didn't.
You know why? Because they still made millions of dollars from this. Let's be real.
Okay.
So again, like if you lost money yourself, here's the thing. I'm not calling out the influencers that lost money themselves, which is very little. Let's just be real about this. Very little. The influencers made, again, millions of dollars from you, right? From their audience, and they knew it. Or even if they didn't know it, let's again, devil's advocate, right? They didn't know it. Oh no. And then they finally knew it. Literally a day later, the next day, and they still chose to keep the money and not refund you even $1. That's still scammy, you know? Yeah. If I borrowed money from you, and then I was like, hey, loan me $5,000, right? And you're like, okay. And I'm like, guess what, bitch? I'm never paying it back. Not even $1. That's messed up. I'm sorry. That's messed up. I don't no matter how dumb I was. I could be drinking, doing cocaine or meth at the time. But if I scammed you, I fucking scammed you.
At some point, there is some legal ramifications. If it's a scam from the start, like a pyramid scheme or something, they will get caught and they'll have to pay for it. So I don't think they can just...
No, you have to realize that crypto is way different than this. Crypto is a way different situation. Right? So the reason why they're doing crypto so much, and again, not all crypto is bad, right? But the reason why they're doing crypto so much is because there's not ramifications set yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So if you research about crypto, people don't know how to, ramify, like, again, these people who scam people right now. So they're getting away with it. And they know it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They know.
They're smart.
They know that they can do this. And also, they're not refunding anything.
Yeah.
Again, I would give it up to a person who's an influencer, right, who also got scammed, like you said, and lost money. But again, if they're making millions of dollars from you, and they're choosing not to refund you $1, that's horrible. Yeah, that's not a good person. And we're still following them. Okay, so that's a problem. Oh, by the way, so back to my story about how I got bullied on TikTok, right? And I'll show you some pictures. I'm not gonna. Okay, I'll blur out their face a little bit, right? But I won't give them name. But they're horrible, right? But here's the thing. So like their followers are basically coming at me. They're like, "Oh, how dare you, spirit love," things like that, right? And I was like, "Yo." First of all, so one of the ladies said something that really irked me, and I came at her, not in a bad way, but I just was like, okay, I'm going to rebuttal, right? So she said, listen, she's like, every time you defend yourself from him bullying you, you're just going to have him bully you more. Like, stop defending yourself. You don't need to do that. I'm like, first of all, do you have a daughter or a niece? And she said, yes. And I was like, okay, so if your daughter or niece was being bullied in school, would you not want her to defend herself against the bullies? She's like, yeah, I would never let her not defend herself. I would never let her get bullied. I'm like, first of all, you can't control that. You're not at school with her. So if she gets bullied at school and she defends herself and you shame her for defending herself, what kind of woman are you? This is the reality situation. You say shit just because someone's pretty, because you follow this influencer and they're pretty, and you say this shit and you think it's okay. But I'm like, no, if it had to do with your own daughter or your own niece, you would not want this to happen. So why would you advocate this for someone else?
Yeah.
So this is problem society again. Pretty people, not only do we let them get away with things, right? We also advocate for them when they're being horrible and toxic.
Yeah.
Even though our personal values disagree with that. That's the problem. And again, 100th time in a row, not all beautiful people are like this. Not all pretty privileged people are like this. But I think it's really good to understand your privileges and how to humble yourself. I think that's always for anyone, both pretty privileged or not. We should all learn how to humble ourselves.
Well, do you think it's 100% just because of beauty? Because maybe they have other qualities in this person they follow that they enjoy. Maybe they're funny, they're really entertaining. So
not this fucking person, because you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if it's Beyonce, well, first of all, I love Beyonce. But she's really talented. Okay? I think a part of pretty privilege, again, as the definition is, that you are people are basing their likes on you on your looks only,
Okay.
not your talent.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so again, some of these people, not all of them, but a lot of them, a majority of them, they're basing their their whole entire personality on just their looks, and they have very little to no talent. And they're getting away with it. And we found them. I mean, so I'll show you some TikToks as well. I'm gonna send this to you as well.
Okay, well, okay.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm not defending them, but to play
No, of
devil's
course not.
advocate,
Yeah.
say I'm a good-looking guy, and that's my only.
You're
talent.
good looking to me,
Oh,
Eric.
thank you. At least one person loves me. But just say hypothetically, I'm a good-looking guy, and that's all I have. I have a terrible personality. I'm not smart, but hey, I post pictures on Instagram. Girls are liking it. Guys liking it too. Can you blame me? Like, hey, girls are liking my photos. That's all I have to offer, but they like me, so I'm proud of myself. But if
I think again, as I said before, like I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with if you said, so on the interview, right? If I interviewed right now and said, hey, tell me about who you are, your talent, like, well, being the most important, most beautiful person better than everyone else.
ridiculously.
When we
good-looking.
say things like that, that's when I'm like, get it together. Like, and to be honest, a real friend would be like, you should do something else besides just being pretty. Like, you should have another talent. And again, it could be in cooking, it could be in sewing. Even in the Olympics, they had swimmers that were knitting. Right? Like, let's just be real about that. There's so many more things that you can do in life besides just being pretty. And there's nothing wrong with being pretty. There's nothing wrong with having pretty privilege. But when you utilize that as a way to think you're above others, which a lot of pretty privileged people do, not all, but a lot, you have to realize, again, the importance of humbling yourself. And we do. Again, they're not all at fault. As people, we do give them ammunition. We give them likes. We give them follows for just being pretty. Like, I just saw, oh my God, I'll say this really quickly. I just saw this TikTok of this, I feel like generically handsome. I wouldn't say there's anything special about him, but he is like generically handsome, right? And he had over 43,000 likes, and his whole entire TikTok was like, I'll play it for you guys right now. I'm gonna send it to you as well. But his whole entire thing was like, the reason why I'm a traveling nurse is because I could have a different girlfriend in every state. And people were like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing when you can come to my state. 43,000 likes. I'm like, we advocate for people that base everything on their looks. And I'm like, first of all, again, if you have multiple wives, I'm not against polygamy. I personally am not, polyamorous or whatever. I think it's a beautiful thing though. But I think that if you have, like, again, that's 50 states, right? Let's just talk about,
hoes in different area codes.
Yeah, and geography, right? Like, if you're saying this girl is so important to you in every single state, and 50 of them, you're not really valuing girls anymore, like, or anyone.
Well, then see, the thing is, the girls say how much they hate players, yet they always go after them. They like the fact that they're players, so it's kind of contradictory, right? The girls are like, oh, this guy's such a player, and and then what do you know? Next thing, they're going after the guy who is a player. So
I do have to admit that I really, again, every person should be allowed someone who cares for them and respects them. Okay. And I do feel like there are some girls and guys who value the toxic people. Okay. And it's becoming a kind of cult-like following now. That's the problem. Is that I feel like some people don't want that, but they feel like it's cool to like the toxic person, so they'll follow the toxic person, right? But again, like, I think that if we want better people, we have to learn how to advocate and respect better people. Again, when you're getting 43,000 likes to someone who's like, oh yeah, my whole entire thing about being a nurse is not helping people, but like actually just fucking girls in different states only.
Well, I think it could be, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he actually was a one-woman man and he just put that on there. It's like an act. You know how you have to play up and act a character? Then that's what people will like. So that's what he posts. If he posts a picture, oh, I love my wife so much, he'll get like 10 likes, right? Talking about being a player, traveling around the world, play up this character that he created for himself. That'll get you the likes.
But now you're creating this emphasis on the importance of players, right? And again, like, if you're a player, fine. I don't player hate. But like,
oh, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. But the thing is that, oh, you're not a player, are you?
Oh, I plead the fifth.
Okay. Well, like, if you're a player, fine. But I think that, when you're saying that, oh, I'm having 50 fucking girlfriends in every state.
I mean, obviously
whatever.
that's exaggerated. I mean, maybe,
I don't know.
yeah.
See, this is things that it's become such a popular thing that like I'm just like, okay, I think we have to realize: are you respecting all 50 of them? You know, are you treating them kindly? Are you caring for all 50 of them? Probably not. I'm sorry. You know, let's be real. So I definitely think, regardless of how he is in real life, you know, it's like if someone kills someone, you know, and like it's a fake killing, what they portray as a real killing, right? Then everyone's gonna start killing people. Think it's cool, right? Like let's just not. This is not
killing.
the purge.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the purge. Like let's not advocate for horrible things, even though we're different. You know, I feel like that's important. Like again, be accountable for your shit.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not babies. You're fucking adults. Like get together. So let's go to like the last part, and then you guys are amazing. Thanks for being here on the podcast.
Yeah, made it this far.
Yeah, let us know also in your comments. Like, what do you think? You know, how do you feel about this situation and pretty privilege? So the last thing I'll say is like the pressures of pretty privilege on both men and women. You know, we talked about like male body standards. They're talking about in the new Thor movie, even Chris Hemsworth couldn't even reach the situation of reaching the body he wanted. He actually had to not drink water for like a day or two to even get that body. He was like, I hated it. Like I wanted to drink water so bad, and I couldn't do it because I wanted to be like super ripped, right? Yeah. So they're going to extremes. Even with the Magic Mike, they're talking about how the lead character, I forget his name. What's his name again?
Mike?
No, the Magic Mike. The actor who plays Magic.
Channing
Mike.
Tatum.
Yeah, Channing Tatum. Gosh, why am I asking a straight man?
How can
for,
you
like,
forget?
Yeah, I'm a bad gay guy. Take my gay card away right now.
Yes, right.
It's like, how do you not know these
You're
hot
officially
actors?
straight now.
So Channing Tatum talked about the fact that he didn't advocate for anyone to have his type of body in the movie because he was like, it was hell to go through the process of getting that body, you know? And he really didn't like that.
And he wasn't even that ripped by like muscle standard. I mean, he was fit, obviously. I'm not taking anything away, but he wasn't like bodybuilder ripped. So just imagine what an actual bodybuilder has to go through. It's way more intense than that. So like when you think about Thor, right? Chris Hemsworth, he basically looks like a bodybuilder in Thor. But even with that, they still had to add a little CGI and
we had to go through his special diet as well. He's like, I didn't like that. He's like, I shouldn't have to not drink water for 2 days to get this body. Again, like you have to do the most to fill these unrealistic stereotypes because even the people who do these things, they still can't fulfill it.
Yeah,
you know, that's the problem. So the last thing I'll say about the situation is like, you know, how it affects not only our generation but also generations after us, right? So like, for example, you know, with kids, like I was talking to one of my neighbor's kids, and I consider her like my niece, you know. So she always calls me uncle and stuff like that. Aww. And she was talking to me. It was so adorable. But she's talking to me like how she's in middle school right now, and the guys, they use a lot of emotional manipulation. They're not as intense. Well, maybe they are as intense, but they use it more in a way where it's supposed to be emotionally manipulating than before. So she liked this guy a lot.
How old is she?
Huh?
How old is she?
She's only 12.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so she's
already
only 12.
Guys.
Yeah, so, I mean, they like them at a young age nowadays.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But, you know, she was like, I like this guy a lot. He's really cute. And we talk on the phone sometimes. I'm like, really? That's cool. You know? And she was like, well, the thing is that he's really pressuring me to send nudes.
What? At 12? No.
That's the reality. I'm sorry. Gen X, please don't fucking lie, okay? This shit happens to your generation. And it happened to our generation too. Like, we had a lot of fucking scumbags in our generation for the millennials, right? And Gen Xers, you guys, again, have your own fucking issues. Let's not be fake about this. So basically, he was like, you know, you should send me nudes. And she's like, well, you know, I don't really feel like that's my thing. I don't really want to, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, you know, every beautiful woman like you is sending nudes. Like Ariana Grande, you know, all these
there's
like,
much
celebrities. Older. But here's the thing, they're still young, right?
Yeah.
So they're still comparing themselves, right? So like Ariana Grande, all these celebrities are sending nudes, right? So like, you know, I just feel like, you know, like as empowering women such as yourself, you know, like you're beautiful.
Yeah,
you're
manipulative.
Yeah, you're gorgeous. You should send me nudes because like, you know, I just feel like it would just help your self-esteem. And then this is what I'm talking about, like Gen Xers, the problem now, because again, millennials, we had our problems too as well. Let's not fake that, right? But Gen Xers, they do a lot of emotional manipulation to get what they want.
I think you got it backwards. We're Gen Xers, and then
I'm not a Gen Xer. No, is it Gen X?
Now it's Gen Z.
Wait, what's Gen Xers? This is how old I am, guys.
Yeah, it goes Gen X.
Hold on, let me look this
then
up.
Then millennials, and now Gen Z. Well, I'm a Zennial. They call it a Zennial, halfway between Gen X and millennial. And then there's Gen X, Zennials.
Gen X is in 1997 to 2012.
Gen Z.
Oh, Gen Z. So Gen X. Oh, 1965 to 1980.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they are older than us.
Yeah.
Oh, please cut this out of podcast, that part. Oh my gosh, you're right. You're right. So basically, okay, so Gen Z. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So Gen Z, the one thing I want to say about this generation is that yes, millennials, which is my generation, right? Gen Z was before me, so again, I did not say this correctly. So many generations, I'm just not with it right now. But
yeah, who's counting? Age is nothing but a number. Thanks, Aaliyah.
Yeah, I love Aaliyah. I love her so much. So millennials, which is my generation, right? We had our own issues, all right? So definitely for sure, millennials had our own issues. We did a lot of severe, I feel like manipulation, but I feel like we were also too aggressive with how we approach people. Especially when we try to get with a girl or a guy, it was really intense. But I feel like the one thing that's happening now with the Gen Z generation, right, is that they're utilizing a lot of emotional manipulation. So it is severe. Let's be real about that. We are learning how to be more respectful, but I feel like the problem is that a lot of people are using this in a way where they're emotionally manipulating people. As I said before, they're saying, oh, as a strong, empowered woman such as yourself, you should send me nudes, because it just shows me whatever imperfections. If you have if your nipple's bigger than the other or whatever.
What? Okay.
No, let's be real.
Yeah.
The emotional manipulation, right?
Yeah.
I don't care what imperfections you had. You're just beautiful to me, so you should send me nudes because you are beautiful. And I feel like that's the problem, is that, again, false empowerment is happening in this generation. False empowerment.
The problem is the guy even wants nudes in the first place. Because when I was 12... Of course, I checked out women, but I wasn't thinking about nudes or anything like that, because nowadays porn is so accessible. Kids can just look on their phone when they're 8 or 9 and find tons of nudie photos. Whereas in our generation, we had to dig into our dad's little secret vault. It was totally inaccessible.
Yeah.
And I don't think I even seen any naked girls when I was 12. I wasn't thinking about anything like that.
I did go my friend's house. His dad had porn underneath his bed, and then we did watch the porn together, which basically is softcore porn, because we have hardcore porn now, but it was softcore porn. It was just Pamela Anderson just laying on a beach naked and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, we're like, oh my gosh.
Then it was kind of like an American Pie, how he's watching all the pixelated porn. It's like, whoa. Nowadays it's so easy access that you just turn on your phone and you can find anything you want within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's what's leading to this. That the troubling thing is, of course, the manipulation, but the fact that a 12-year-old even thinks about nudity and sex already. I wasn't thinking about that when I was 12. I'm not saying I'm better than the current generation.
Well, I mean, I do congratulate sexual liberation, but again, if it comes to kids, we need to stop that shit. You know what I'm saying? Again, pressuring kids to over-sexualize themselves at such a young age is not empowering. It's degrading and destructive.
Yeah.
And we have to let kids be
especially
kids.
if it's only a one-way street, because women, guys are not, showing their schlongs to the... I don't think he's trading.
Yeah, they are. Yes, they are.
So you think that guy is trading with her his pics?
Yeah, but she doesn't want to see it. You know? She's like, I don't want to see it. But also, I think this pressure is if I show you my schlong, you better show me your vagina. That's the problem. It's not... They think it's equal.
Show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Yeah, it's equal. They think it's equal. It's not equal. It's because you're forcefully sending that. You're not asking me, hey, you want to see my schlong? Hey, Eric.
They're forcing
I have this dick. Let me pull it out right now. Look at it. Not you looked at it. You gotta show me yours. It's not like...
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem. It's people are doing the most extreme things, and I feel again, emotional manipulation is
where's
the
problem. Modesty? You're not supposed to just flash yourself and be rewarded for it, right? What... So you go flash some random chick on the street, she's supposed to return the favor? No, it doesn't work that way.
To be honest, I'm just looking forward to something. I think that I rather, and I look forward to it for sure. If regardless if it was perfect or not perfect, I look forward to it. I look forward to, being hey, I have an emotional and physical attachment to this person. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just know, oh my gosh, I just realized how much I said it. But just to know that when I said Gen X, I really meant Gen Z. Why do you both start with Gen?
Well, they're all generations, so that's why it's
I know, but it's generation. It goes Boomers, Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z.
Yeah, and then there's one in between Gen X and Millennials, which is Zennials. and I fall into that because it's kind of in between. Like I am Gen X, but I don't fully identify with Gen X because a lot of them are older than me, and then millennials, they're still kind of younger. So I'm right in between. I have a little bit of each side. Yeah. That's like in the late 70s to early 80s, around that range. Yeah.
So I'm learning about this today as well.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. I feel like I had so many stats. It's like I have so many stats, and I was like, I didn't even realize that all your stats I'm finding on pretty privilege. I did not look at the stats in the generations.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. It's always a learning process.
Yeah.
Always learn something new from each other, and we're always growing.
Thank
right?
you. So you guys, thank you so much for having us and being a part of this. Again, as I said before, us as influencers, we're trying to make a community more than anything. That's what we want. We're not here to scam people like a lot of influencers are. We talk about real issues that we deal with in our everyday lives, that we all deal with, both you guys and us. And I feel like that's important because a lot of times we're not talking about real issues for most influencers, right? So this is a very rare podcast, and we hope that you guys support that, be part of this, and comment and let us know how you feel about things, okay? So thank you so much for being here, and please like, follow, subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys all later. Bye, Spirit Fam.